my career really has been a very steady sort of traditional newspaper career, a bit like a tractor going up a long incline very slowly. I got into crowdfunding because I took voluntary redundancy from the Independent a couple of years ago and was really casting around. I had no firm ideas of what I was going to do, but just decided to try a few different things. One of the things I did was I ended up reporting this phone hacking trial for Hacked Off, where I met Peter, and I think he really is quite modest, but he is a revolutionary as far as crowdfunding is concerned, because his idea of asking the public to fund his live tweeting of that trial has really kicked off the whole thing, and I think given a much brighter future for journalists in this country. While we were doing the trial, we decided to extend it and put out a book. And what was great about the book was that we had a firm idea of the appetite for it before we actually went ahead. Because if you're a publisher, which I am now, you've got a lot of upfront costs. You've got to pay the author, you've got to pay for typesetting, design, printing, all of these big fixed costs at the start of a project. If you crowdfund, you can not only get support for those upfront costs, but you can also get a very good idea of the market. And that actually applies for more traditional journalism as well. So we crowdfunded the book, and some people paid up to £100 for a package which might include not just the book, but also coming along to the launch party and a few other extras. And really, some people were very, very generous, and I think this is typically what you find in crowdfunding, which is you get a lot of donations around the lower level, which is great, absolutely great, but you also get some people who really love what you do. And those are the ones who will support you greatly, and actually those individual contributions more towards the top end of people, from people who really, really like what you do, will actually make a very big difference. So crowdfunding, how important is it? Very briefly, I think it really could be part of the future for journalism in this country. We know there's a funding crisis, we know there's a slow decline of newspapers, there's a sort of dissolution, a fragmentation of the media into hundreds of different outlets, hundreds of different radio stations, TV stations, websites, lots of advertising to Google and the rest of the internet and so on. BBC in trouble, or even more traditional outlets like ITV struggling to some extent, sometimes cutbacks at ITN and so on. So where is the money going to come from to fund our journalism? Well, one of the ways we could do it is by appealing direct to the public, which is the essence of crowdfunding. And this is where Byline comes in, because Byline, and Seung Yoon, who's the chief executive and founder, is in the audience over there. He came up with this idea for a website which would connect journalists direct to the public, and they would be able to appeal for funds to the public. So I am now, as of today, reporting the trial of Neil Wallace, the News of the World man, at the Old Bailey in a Byline project, which means essentially that I asked the public for £3,000 for the trial's scheduled to last about a month or so, and the public have come up with the money. Not millions of members of the public, about 70, 75 I think we're up to, but again these donations range from £10 to a couple £100. And as a result of that, I'm now doing this month-long project. So I think if we look at crowdfunding more generally, it's not necessarily going to sweep away the need for these big news outfits that can sustain bureau across the world in difficult places where it's very expensive and dangerous, like Iraq, say. But it could be a solution. It could be a way that we find a way of funding our work by appealing direct to the public. And I think in these very difficult and often somewhat depressing times for journalists, I think that crowdfunding, and Byline in particular, there's a really bright spark, and I think we should welcome it very greatly. That's all I want to say. Thank you.